Okay, thank you. Welcome to the 2018 annual meeting of the Hollandale Homeowners Association. I'm Jim Scott. I'm the current president for this year. So thank you for joining us this morning. And we have we're gonna do the business first, and then we're gonna get to the updates. So first thing, let's call the meeting to order. Let the record show it is 10:09 a.m. and the 2018 annual meeting of Hollandale Homeowners Association will come to order. As far as roll call, we need a 30% of all homeowners either in attendance or by proxy to establish a quorum. So, Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum?
We do.
Thank you. The meeting will proceed. Proof of the meeting, the official notice was sent in your packet, which is mailed on April 6th, and so you should have that sheet signed by Wendy in your packet. This morning's agenda will include some introductions. We have some guests here, so we're going to do introductions, approval of the 2017 annual meeting minutes, ratification of the budget proposed for 2018, election of our members. Then we'll do any old business there might be, any new business. We'll talk about the officer and committee reports and an annual update. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, the agenda will proceed as written. Introductions. I'd like to introduce the board members. Wendy Allen is our secretary for the year.
Hello.
John Houston, treasurer. Mark Turner. And Sherry Powers, who couldn't be with us, but Sherry is completing her second term as a board member, and the board wants to thank Sherry for 4 years of dedicated service to the HOA. We have staff here. Genevieve is here. Genevieve Goob, our HOA manager. Dee Holbert is out there. So Dee Holbert is our admin assistant. Lola Hemingway, housekeeping. Mark Hemingway, lead maintenance.
Matthew.
Matt Banks, maintenance. Tyler Hogue, maintenance, and
Cody.
Cody, applicator. Haven't met you, Cody.
Part-time weekend.
Okay. We appreciate the staff. They've been doing a great job. Several guests. Lynn Perry is here, our HOA attorney.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing today?
The Phil Gambrell is over there from our insurance agent, Gambrell Sturgis. Let's see, who? Nancy Sanchez, our bookkeeper. Mark Guidry is around here someplace. Mark Guidry, Totalcom, our TV internet provider. And I think that's it. Did I miss anybody?
No, I think you got it.
Okay. Huh?
You got it.
Okay. Good. So, thanks to all the guests for being here. We appreciate your support of the HOA and everything you do on behalf of our members. So, the 2017 annual minutes were included in your packet. Are there any comments, changes, or questions regarding the minutes?
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved as written. Thank you. In introducing the budget, I went through a budget session this morning, but so some of this will be familiar to those that attended, but just wanted to hit the highlights and show you where we were in 2017 and where we are going in 2018. So In general, the HOA is in sound financial condition. We remain in good shape. We ended the 2017 year, 12/31/17. The operating fund was at $181,000 roughly, and the replacement fund was about $914. So we stayed in solid shape in both of our funds. And as far as profit and loss goes, we had revenues of $1.3 million, expenses of not quite $1.1 million. So we ended up with an operating income of almost $221,000, which allowed us to fully fund the annual replacement fund contribution of $217,340. That's the first time as far as I could tell, the first time ever that it showed up this way, that we were able to fully fund the reserve fund contribution, reserve replacement fund, same thing. And so that calculation was made in 2010. It includes several large line item expenditures for this building, and so that was a good thing. I was real pleased that we were able to fully fund that. Left us with a net income of about $3,000. So that was the 2017 picture. For 2018, we're seeing some increases. The proposed annual budget was included in your packet, and it does include a 5% increase in dues that would be effective, if ratified, would be effective July 1. And the reasons kind of for the increase, we had several notable increases. Insurance increased from $229 to, actually it went from $229 to $276, but because it starts in April, the impact for the impact on 2018 budget will take it to $260. So we should see a $260,000 expense in the insurance line item, and the salaries and benefits also increased about 13%, from $196,000 to $220,000. Part of that was due to some turnover in open positions that we had. So the 220 has been our budget for the last 3 years or so, and so we stuck with the 220. Repair and maintenance, 30% increase. Normally our repair and maintenance is about $200,000 a year. We have some special projects that we want to do in 2018, and those are listed at the bottom of the proposed budget. We put a little section there so that you can see what those are. The biggest one is a replacement of the surveillance system. That's about $50,000, and then we have some other security upgrades and some different things that we would like to do, and so those are included in the 268. Because the building's 10 years old, we are also running into things that come up. The $10,000, $20,000 repair items that have come up, and so those are unexpected, no way to plan for them. But we've had to deal with those as well, and we expect to see that continue going forward. The utilities, 180 to 190, a 5% increase. That is probably going to be mostly water. We're actually doing pretty good on controlling the electric with the LED lighting upgrades, and just watching the electric as far as common areas and AC and that. So we're doing pretty stable really with utilities. And based on all of that, the income that is left, whatever that is, up to the $218,000, will be contributed to the replacement fund. So if everything works out, we have really the impact of the 5% increase would be $30,000 of additional revenue for 2018, and we'll have, based on this, $124,000 of additional expenses. So our challenge will be to control the $95,000 shortfall, and we have some ideas about how to control that, and we have been this last year, watched it really close. We'll continue to watch it really close. There are some discretionary expenditures that if we see where we need to defer those, we will. But all in all, the shortfall, I'm somewhat comfortable we can manage that. In the impact of that 5% is listed there for depending on what unit you have. If your current dues are, if you have a 2-bedroom unit, current dues are $664. The increase to a 2-bedroom unit would be $28.95, coming to $692. And so you can see the impact, whether you have a 2 or 3 or 3.3, the monthly impact to dues of that 5%. Everybody got that? That's the one you wanted to see, right? So the 5% will generate $30,000 in 2018. It will generate an additional $30,000 in 2019. Now that is because it only starts July 1. We'll only get half of the benefit this year. We'll get the full benefit next year. So that's the setup for the budget. And I'm happy to take any questions on that at this point. If you're comfortable, then if you would just mark your ballots yes or no to the budget, whether you agree or not.
I still have to come back to the question I asked in the budget session when you said that a 5% increase this year, or over the next 12 months, we probably wouldn't need another one for 5 to 10 years.
I shouldn't have said that.
We have never had our expenses go down. Utilities go up, salaries go up, every repairs go up. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've never been able to run a household on last year's budget. Somebody always raises their rates. I just am bothered because we had a $95,000 deficit this year that we couldn't cover.
This year.
So the question.
I'm bothered that if, just to hear someone say, well, if we voted in this year, we won't have to have another one for 5 or 10 years. I'm not sure I can agree with that.
Okay, the question was, will the 5% increase actually carry us? In the budget session, I said that I felt comfortable that a 5% increase this year would carry us a few years into the future. It could be 5, it could be more, but based on what I've seen and the expenditures that we have had, and there is a slide that was in the budget session which actually did show expenditures decreasing, and so between 2015 to 2017 we decreased expenses by $300,000. I think we are to the point where there is not much more room to decrease, and we certainly will see some increase in whether it's utilities or insurance is probably the one that may be the most risky in terms of an increase. But the purpose of the 2018 proposed budget is just that. It's a one-year budget. And so from what I see, this budget, when the increase takes full effect in 2019, is a balanced budget. Now, we do have the flexibility of moving some things around. We actually did this year manage it so that we had the full funding to the replacement fund. What has always happened in the past and could happen in the future, if we don't have enough money to fully fund the replacement fund, then that's the way it'll be. I mean, we will just, that is the trade-off. So we will be able to fully cover expenses and even increases in expenses. The trade-off is if we come up short, it's just the contribution to the replacement fund. So 10 years may be very optimistic, but I am pretty comfortable with a 5-year number.
But you projected in the earlier meeting that the replacement fund will go down next year and the next year till we have only, what was it, $200,000 left?
350.
350.
Yeah, 350 in 2019, based on, you know, the full funding is being able to fully fund. So we take more out than we're putting in, and we end up with 350 projected. But the way that works is we're spending a lot of money last year, this year, and next year that won't be spent after that. So we have, you know, a lot of our building systems, the painting, the roof was done in 2015. The painting will be done over the next 2 years. So the weatherproofing, the pool renovations, those things have a 10-year life. And so they were done in 2007, and they are due now to be replaced in 2017. Some of them we've, you know, gotten 11 years out of. Once that's done, barring a hurricane, there really is no bigger expenditures like that to be done for another 8 to 10 years.
Those are all your major that we were talking about earlier in the budget session. Those are your capital expenditures that occur about every 10 years, which we were due. So that's where the lump sum of the budget money goes that you're just putting out, that we put out this year.
So we draw down that replacement fund, and then we build it back up over the next years for the next big expenditures that need to be done. So yes, the 2019 is probably a low point for the replacement fund, and then it will begin to get built back up.
Exactly.
All these major repairs, or they be, have they been bidded out to companies and take into consideration costs that's a low bid?
Yes, we've done competitive bidding. We have, with the bigger ones, we put out bid documents and took multiple bids and had bid openings. We did it in the professional way, the way you're supposed to do it.
Absolutely.
So we did have we did take low bidders for these projects, and we've executed contracts, managed the contractors closely, and worked with them well. They've been very receptive. It's been a great working relationship in getting this stuff done.
I just have a comment, whether it's, I don't question, this is very easy to understand, whether it's Mr. Houston or the bookkeeper, this is a much cleaner and more understandable financial statement than we've been presented with in the past, whether it's consolidating accounts or getting rid of, crazy line items that didn't belong there. So kudos, this is much
Thank you.
more
Thank you.
digestible.
Back, Mary.
Are we just here for the annual 2018 budget approval? Future years for future years.
Yeah, and that's, the future, there's a budget every year,
Right.
and we base that budget based on what we know and the best guesses of things that we don't know. So yes, this 2018 budget is solely based on what we know for this year and what we think we can do and what we will certainly be able to pay for. Yes.
What is?
I'm sorry, I'm not good at this. We're supposed to be keeping up on the microphone so that people that are listening can hear, but my fault. Go ahead.
What is the purpose for the 13% increase in insurance? Is it 13% increase over the same insurance, or adding more, or?
It's the same insurance. We have 9 insurance policies, and the main increase is in the property portion of our insurance. So the property policy went from 180,000 to 220,000, I think it was. So that was the main increase in the insurance. The general liability policy went up $5,000 due to our claim history. We had those couple of lawsuits, and actually one is settled and one is not, but we had those, and then we had a slip and fall that we had to pay a claim on that. So the general liability is based on your claim history, so it did go up but mainly it's the property, and the property is a result of hurricanes on the Gulf. And so all of the condos on the Gulf, all of the properties really on the Gulf have experienced an increase due to past claims on hurricanes for last year. Yes?
Why do you consider our surveillance system obsolete? The cameras are down there.
Well, it was installed in 2007. The cameras, we could use, the cameras are analog cameras run on RG59 wire. So it's an older type system as far as the cameras go. Then the software is outdated, the computer is outdated, we have very little capability in recording, and so really the value of a surveillance system is after the fact. It's a deterrent, of course, just from people seeing it, but the value is if something happens, then you can go back and look and see if it was caught on camera. We don't really have that capability now. It just doesn't work like it should.
Would the new system record, and then for how long?
Depending on the selection, the storage is cheap these days, and so we could get anywhere from 7 days, 14 days. We could,
More than just overnight.
Oh,
absolutely,
yeah. Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. Chuck?
Is it going to be wireless or wired?
To be determined.
Well, it could be a combination, because in the process of replacement, if we can use the old wiring, we will. If we could tag onto it and pull new wiring along, we will. But there may be some locations that we're going to add cameras, like to the pet areas. We were going to add a camera on each end to the pet areas out by the pool, so we can see the gate coming from the boardwalk. Those areas, if we can't get wire to them, then we'll use wireless.
Wouldn't it be, if the technology is not there to have wireless everywhere, which it is in the house and most everyone's going there, maybe should we wait a year or two till the technology gets to that point? We have a bunch of electricians pulling wires that we're going to abandon in a year or two.
Well, the technology,
wireless is on the way.
Yeah, well, the technology is here. You can put in a totally wireless system. What we feel, and we'll talk to, we'll get bids, we'll talk to people about their recommendations on wired versus wireless. But in this building, wireless is tricky because everything's concrete and steel, and so if you don't have, we'd have to put in wireless antennas every 30 feet or that kind of thing. But we'll certainly explore that option because in some cases it is less expensive to do wireless than to pull new wires.
But
Yeah, we haven't made the decision
I
yet.
wasn't just thinking about the expense. I'm thinking about once they go wireless, you may not even be able to buy the parts for the wireless system. When they change, they change.
Right.
And then whatever you have in just a few years, you junk it. So hopefully,
Well, and actually that's part of the
next 10
reason.
years.
That's part of the reason we're here now, and we hadn't already done the
Right.
surveillance system. Is we got into it and talked to people, and there were a number of different solutions that we were presented with, and so it's just going to take a little time to get to it. And I don't know, I feel like that the technology over the next year or two is really probably not going to change that much. I mean, wireless is pretty solid now, and it's probably more important to have a good working system than it is to wait. Okay? So the budget, 5%. Expenses are pretty known, and we've accounted for some unknowns. And so based on all of that, if you would please mark your ballots yes or no. And then when we get further along, we'll hand those in. So thank you for the questions. Appreciate the interaction. Next is the election of the board members. There are 2 board seats up for elections this year. Candidates for those seats are Jeff Newman, sitting here in the front corner. And I am also running for another term.
Yay.
I neglected to say in the beginning that it has been my privilege to be the president for this year. I've learned a lot. I feel more comfortable now with where we are, and so some of my comments basically reflect that I think we're in a good place, and we would continue to be there for the near future. So, all right, so 2 candidates, 2 seats, pretty simple. Please mark your ballot for 2 of the eligible candidates, and we're going to help out our counters this year. We have Beth Lyons is helping to count, Frank Brown is going to count, and Nancy is going to count, and then Lynn is going to oversee the counting. So what I'd like you to do is to mark your selections, sign and date the ballot, and if you have any proxies, fill out their ballot as well, sign and date it, and then pass them to the aisle or raise your hand and somebody will collect them. You can fold your sheet if you want, but we didn't give envelopes this year. That held up counters last year, getting them out of envelopes and sorting out papers. So if you just want to fold them or pass them to the aisle and somebody will pick them up.
Jen.
And then after you do that, you also received a sheet, the green colored sheet for questions. So if you have a question that you want the board to address, you can write it on that and pass it in to the aisle as well, and we'll collect those. And then when we get toward the update section of the program, we'll address those questions.
We passed them down.
Is that everyone? No? Oh, okay. Okay, then I'll wait for you.
Okay, questions are in. We're ready to go. Is there any old business or unfinished business to come before the board? Okay, hearing none. Is there any new business to be presented for the board to consider?
Besides those questions that we just submitted?
Yeah, that would be
That's different.
separate, yeah. If you have something that you wanted to make a motion on, basically it would be the new business.
There's no new business.
Okay, well, when you signed in this morning, you were given a copy of the officer and committee reports. We decided to write it out this year, put it all together in in one document, so make it more efficient in covering it, and also give it to you, get a chance to really study it more than just hearing it at a meeting. So that was in your packet, or got it signed in, and we'll go through some of that stuff when we get into the update portion of the program. And other than that, it's yours to review and keep. So, annual updates. We have a couple of updates that are important, and then we'll have some of the accomplishments and plans. First is the legal update, and I know everybody's has been concerned about litigation. We did have two suits against the HOA for mold intrusion into units. One of those has been settled. It was settled with prejudice, which means that it won't come back again. They can't bring it back again. So it's done. That one's done. And to date, there's been no expense to the HOA for that. The insurance picked it up. The terms were confidential, but we have the final settlement, so that one is done. The other one is still continuing through the process. The HOA and the previous owner are still kind of far apart on that one, and so it will continue to go through all the steps leading up, and if it doesn't get settled prior, then we'll end up in court with that one. But the insurance company, again, just like the last one, the insurance company is representing us, and they are picking up all the legal fees, and so we're hopeful that they can proceed through that and get it done with little to no expense to the HOA. Again, I'm being optimistic, but I really think we're in a good spot based on what I've seen and results that have come from the steps so far. So that's where we are with the litigation. And other than that, basically that is the legal update.
Just as best we can, right?
We're getting this microphone thing down now.
I just wanted to give you a heads up.
Is that second litigation over water and mold too?
Yes. Yeah, water intrusion resulting in mold.
Alleged.
Yes.
Has the case that's still open, has it been arbitrated or mediated?
The case both cases were mediated. The mediation was successful and the one was not successful in the other. So yes, mediation has already been done. Yeah. Okay. Insurance update. We talked about this a little bit in the budget lead up, but kind of the insurance update is that we have seen increasing property in the property premiums we saw increasing. That's a result of weather for almost totally. And so if we have a good year this year, next year, then hopefully we can see those go down. Bill Gambrill is here to address that part of it.
Yeah, I just wanted to say...
you have to find a microphone.
We've got a fancy one right here for you.
Okay, can you hear? Okay. Yeah, this year it did go up, and that's the first time I've written insurance here, probably 8, 9, 10 years, something like that. And I remember back when I first wrote it, it was like $376,000 or something for the property. Last year it was $179,000, and this year it's back up to $219,000. So the trend's been a lot better than bad, but this past year was kind of the worst seasons they've had, and probably, since Ivan, Katrina, and those years. So a lot of people are getting the increases on the coastal areas. So that's all I really got, unless y'all got some questions or about insurance or. Yes.
Is this an overall increase, or did we actually sustain the damage that would have caused?
No, you didn't. No, y'all. No. People, you're getting the damage, that was caused, and the increases as well as what happened in South Florida. Puerto Rico was a huge one, because you got to understand, these companies that write these, like this building here, they write worldwide. They're not just writing in a certain area. So Puerto Rico had a lot to do with it. Houston, South Florida had a lot more damage than people realized. So the West Coast could be affected by some tragic event, and it could affect over here. So. Because a lot of these same companies, they pay out on these wildfires and, different things like that too, so. Yes.
How much coverage do we have on the building?
It's rounded off, it's $38 million.
What's our deductible?
Well, if it's a hurricane, you got a 1% deductible, and that's the worst deductible you got. Back when I first wrote this, you got a 5% deductible. So what that means is 1% of $38 million. So your deductible for a hurricane, not a tropical storm, but hurricane, is $380,000. If it's not a hurricane, say if it's a tropical storm that comes through here, then it's going to be a $25,000 deductible for all other wind. Your deductible for things like fire, water damage, that kind of thing, $5,000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The question about damage, the only thing we had was some damage to the boardwalk, and the boardwalk wasn't covered in the property policy anyway. And so we ended up, we evaluated replacing the whole thing. We looked at repair. We finally found somebody that was comfortable with repair, and they did repair it, and it cost $4,500. So we were real lucky with the Category 1 storm, and holding our breath for every year, to see what happens this year. Okay. Next is the questions that were submitted. We'll address those. So Wendy has looked at them, and you want to...
Yeah, you want me to read the first one out? Because this one's going to be for Jen. Can you hear me okay, Dave? Okay. Please explain how residents will be able to access their units while the breezeway is being painted, and when will this take place? It's a very good question.
I'm pretty sure you mean the floor of the breezeway. I've spoken to Hadley, and when we did it several years ago, we did it overnight. It's a 4-hour hard dry time. We've been testing the product to see if we can walk on it sooner than that. So we're thinking around 10:30 in the evening. If we do that, we can do, and we have a 4-hour drive time, then we could do 2 shifts that night there, if that works out for everyone. Those of you that live here, I understand I'm trapping you in your unit for 4 hours. So, but I think that will work out, and the contractor seems willing to do an overnight shift there. So. And
we're going to do it in pieces so that there will always be access to either the elevator, one elevator or the other elevator. We'll do it in pieces, and so during the time that the piece right in front of your door is being done, there will be an inconvenience, but other than that, there will always be access to get around the building.
And Jen will provide advanced notice so that you can plan ahead of time. We're not quite there yet, but when it comes time, you'll know the schedule for your floor and your units, and it'll be broken down.
And as far as timing goes, the contractor was kind of optimistic we were going to start in the breezeways, get the breezeways done before the summer, and then move out onto the wall. They were delayed. We had an unusually cold winter here, lots of humidity, and so they got delayed. And so now the floors will probably not be painted until after the season.
Yes, that will make life a lot easier for everyone.
Yeah,
renters coming in. It's okay with owners, but renters, it's like saying,
Right. Okay, next.
Okay, we have a couple of items on TotalCom. I'm going to read both of them, and then some of us are having major problems with TotalCom TV service. Is the HOA monitoring their performance is one. And TV service constant need to re-ping receiver if off more than a week. So those are the two.
Well, I'll address the first one. We are monitoring that. Mark and I have been in close contact, and Jen. So we are monitoring to the extent we know. When we received a work order report of all the work orders that were submitted over the last year, and Mark's continuing to keep up with that. So yes, we are keeping track of it. I'll let Mark address the second question.
Re-ping. I'll reread it again. Yeah. Need to re-ping receiver if off more than 1 week.
Actually, it's a 2-week time frame. If the receiver has been turned off either through power issue, like if the power goes out and the receiver is not on completely. The way to probably resolve that more than anything would be just leave the receiver on. They run 7 watts of electricity when you leave, and in all likelihood it will come back on if there is a power issue or brownout. But we have a lot of brownouts or power issues here as well, and that will take it if you turn off the receiver, and when you turn off the receiver and leave it off for 2 weeks, it has to be reset.
So Mark, can I ask one clarifying question, because I wasn't aware of that. You're saying the recommendation is turn off your TV, but don't turn off your receiver, and that should help mitigate to some extent?
But if you know you're going to be coming every couple of weeks,
it's not an right.
Issue.
Okay.
If you're going to leave it off for a month,
okay.
What happens is every night at 3 a.m. the receiver receives a hit from Dish that updates the channel guide.
Okay.
If it doesn't receive the channel guide hit for a couple of days, it's going to reset itself and just turn off. That's what it's going to do. I mean, it's not going to, if it doesn't have a hit within a certain period of time. So it's on. And normally when, it does this every night, it's kind of on in the background always. But if the power goes out or comes back on, or there is a brownout, or if you turn your receiver off by flipping the switch on the outlet, you know, you can turn off, some people turn off their switch when they leave and just, you know, to cut all the electrical, and it will have to take a reheat. So
Okay.
the way to solve that, if you aren't here very often, and, you know, like if you're coming every 2 months or a month and a half or 6 weeks, what I'd recommend is let us know the receivers in your unit. There's an R number on the back of the receiver. It has R whatever. If you let us know that, we'll make sure that it's verified in your system, and before you come, we can actually send a hit to your receivers. You just call our office and say, I'm in unit whatever, can you send a hit to my receivers? I'm going down there tomorrow or the next day, and we'll actually do that for you.
1 second, I got one more update. Jim, can you provide the update that you did at the finance meeting about the power upgrades that should help some of this? Because I don't know that everybody is aware of that.
Right.
It's all related, and then we'll take your question. Okay.
So in several months ago, if you were around here, you would have seen it. Alabama Power did some major upgrades to the substation that serves Dauphin Island. They actually, it seemed like tripled the size of that substation. They put up all new poles and new lines. And having been here, I've noticed that since that time, we have fewer of those glitches, blips, brownout kind of situations. And so the reliability of the power has been much better. The way our system is set up, we have 3 transformers that come in and serve different parts of the building, and I noted that we noticed over the time that there was one of those that was more problematic than the others. Now I think, you know, we'll see when we get into storms if it holds, but for the most part, I've noticed an improvement in the reliability of the electrical system.
Okay.
Well, I'm the person that asked the question because we are only here every 6 to 7 weeks, and for the last 12 months or more, every single time that we come down, the TV does not work, and it's typically on a Saturday or Sunday. And while I appreciate being able to call ahead of time to get my TV to work, I called on Sunday and was asked by the customer service representative, ma'am, is this an emergency or could this wait until Monday? And I paused and I asked my husband, I said, darling, is this an emergency? And he said, and I quote, well, the goddamn IndyCar race starts in an hour. And I had Nick at Benchmark's phone number in my phone from a previous interaction. I had texted him. I said, hey, here's my receiver number. Can you ping my thing? Then I called. Then I called 2 hours later. Then at 5 o'clock, Nick texted me back and said, I just pinged your thing. So we waited 6 hours, and thank God the race was rained out and he could watch it on Monday. But if my receiver is turned off when I leave after 2 weeks and I don't come back for 4 weeks, I'm still paying for that service. And I think that there's got to be, Nick suggested maybe they ping every receiver here every 4 weeks to wake them all up. I just don't think I have to go through this nonsense every 6 weeks in order to watch television, and then on Saturday or Sunday get told, well, can this wait till Monday? Why do you have an after hours emergency call service if you just want to put me off till Monday? That is, I mean, it's a little thing, and I mean, I've talked to several other owners that said, listen, we don't rent, but another person called and said, well, I do rent, and I have a perfect rating on VRBO, and the first time my rating falls because a renter cannot get the television to work, and they're told, call Telecom, or Totalcom, she's going to come unglued, because that affects your ability to rent your unit. So I don't know if there's a better solution.
Okay, let's give Mark a second here real quick.
Well, Mark, one of your technicians told me if you leave that receiver on, the heat buildup will cause problems.
Oh, it's hot.
If it's
Right.
inside of the, if it's inside of the box.
Yeah, so you say leave it on, your technician says don't leave it on. So-
Yeah, well, and you know, what we're saying, leave it on, it's not burning that much if it's, the television's off and it's not doing anything.
Yeah.
It's hot in my little TV, I mean, it's hot to the touch.
Well, this, you know, if we have, we have 7,500 customers, and this is the only place we have to send hits to the receivers. And it's because, like I said, it's a lot of the power outages and stuff like that that affect us here. We can, if you know you're coming, we can take care of it for you before you get here.
So
we
why don't you
continue to
address
monitor
the weekend coverage and, what's an emergency, what's not an emergency? And I
Well, tell them it's an emergency and somebody's going to really get back to you. What it is a lot of times that we get a call, it's for, they want to pay their bill on the weekend. That's not an emergency. And, that's a lot of those kind of calls. But if you have something out, call it an emergency. Somebody will get back to you. And if you don't, the answering service is supposed to. And it's an answering service that we have that is pretty responsive. Each of the techs that are, they know which tech is responsible for each property. And the tech is supposed to let the other techs know if he's going to be off. But they get texts, and everybody gets the text, and it lists who is supposed to do it. So we do get texts within a few minutes after the call.
Well, I made 2 phone calls before I finally talked to Nick, and he said, okay, I sent it again, try it again. Then on Monday, he called me back. He said, didn't I talk to you yesterday? I said, yes, Nick. And he said, oh, I just got a service call report on your unit, which was from 36 hours before. So their weekend service, I'm sorry, sucks.
Well, and Mark and I have talked about the service call thing versus a text, right? I mean, a service call gets put in on Monday morning into the system, but the text that when the technician gets contacted is before, on the weekend, somewhat before the service call gets put in.
Yeah, what it is it's followed up on Monday morning. Anything during the weekend, Phyllis follows up, and the tech is supposed to take care of it. Either close it if he's done something on the weekend, or call the customer. In your situation, he called you after the fact because he got the other service call that got keyed into our system. Because every service call gets keyed in.
Are you saying that you have a number that we can text you guys?
No,
Okay, that's.
what it is the, well, you can text Nick, so, a lot of times.
No, Nick is leaving.
I'm fine with that.
Do not text Nick, text Genevieve. Yeah, please, do not.
Call TotalCom.
You call TotalCom,
Right.
and when they get the service call, it goes out to the technician.
Right.
All of Mark's crew that covers Alabama and Florida, and then whoever on duty gets it. But my question is, Mark, can we set it up so that every 2 weeks we're paying? Can we do that, or is that unrealistic?
It's not that it's unrealistic, but, whenever I look at the service calls and we would list those if they got pinged, we didn't have that many of those this year. I know I'm hearing that some people are having it, but I didn't have a ton of those. If there was more than 25 or 30 over the course of the year.
We are, and the front desk staff is handling it.
Yes,
So,
right, yes.
okay, you have to understand that we can't let a renter come into a unit without
So they call.
anything. So we're internally, Lynn knows a lot. I have 2 staff members.
But
that are
what I'm
my
talking
go-to.
about is.
But you
it has
can't
to
do
be
the pings, Jen.
The pinging thing is not as often as.
And there are a number of steps to go through before you get to the ping.
Right.
And yeah, that's right. It takes a little while.
Yeah,
Because I guarantee you, categorically, my unit is used weekends. It is rare that it is more than a few days it's on there. And the thing crashes and runs. So the 2 weeks is not the sole culprit.
But is it having to be pinged is my question.
Yes.
It may not have to be pinged. It may be something
It
additional.
depends on what your screen says. When you come in, is it the blue screen? Is it an orbital screen?
But it's always
Jim and
got
Mark.
power. Mine never does not have power. It may not physically be turned on, but it does never not have power. And in the background, it's still receiving
A lot of times it's user error.
Unless the power goes out.
Right, but the power doesn't go out, that's it's 3 o'clock in the morning.
What happens is your boss puts it on the wrong input, and that we know it's just going to be she gets to from the HDMI.
That's about me.
Hey guys, I can't hear if everybody's talking. So, and we are we're gonna have to take some actions on this. We, as a board, we have begun tracking that internally. And to Mark's point, there's not a large number of tickets that are opened with TotalCom. That does not mean that the system is easy. Sorry, Mark, it's not a really easy process to get them working, but not all of the issues result in a ticket to TotalCom. It's you've got to rescan, you've got to reboot, and so we have put some Q&As and some steps in the owners section of the HOA website. And you can follow them. And to Barb's point, it takes about 20 minutes to get through them, but that is the system that we have. So, you know, we do have to work within what we've got. We don't really have much of a choice in that matter at this point. And we will continue to work with Mark on the number of tickets and service calls that do come in to them. And Mark, if you will check on the timeliness of the weekend calls, that would be helpful to make sure that the weekend ones, you know, are receiving attention.
Can I make a suggestion? Could every time one of my renters say, I say to them, you might have to go down and ask somebody at the front desk to see if they can please help you. Could Jen's, all the people that Jen sends, send it to Mark, so it'll be...
But it's not necessarily a ticket from Mark. That's what I'm saying. It's our system. So if Jen's staff can fix that, there's not a TotalCom issue. It needs rescanned or rebooted. Does that make sense?
It does, but it's still, Mark's saying, we don't have enough problems. And I'm saying, well, yes, because all Jen's taking on Mark's problems.
I think there are two issues.
There's two different things. That's right.
We have limitations of our system by being one item. That's the reset reboot thing. That's one track, and this is just my opinion. The other side is are our problems being answered in a timely fashion, and you know, is there a solution for the weekends, Mark, that may be more satisfactory to the people that are having problems? So that's when their renters are coming in, they're having these constant calls or constant resetting. But so there are limitations to the system, and that's what we have, and we have a contract for that. But there, you know, the other side is how responsive can we be when we have those issues. So there's a set of problems that we have to fix on our own,
right? And
then there's the ticket.
Are our receivers up to date? It seems to me those big ones, I haven't seen them. I've seen the smaller ones elsewhere. So I just don't know how old our receivers are.
Mark, the question is, are the receivers up to date?
There are newer ones out there.
That doesn't, she said, are there newer ones out there? But that doesn't mean they're not up to date.
So, so there's, you know, there obviously the TV system, and we're talking about TV. You know, the internet is part of this. The telephone's part of this. We don't have nearly as many issues with those services as the TV. And you know, again, part of it's the nature of the system. Part of it is, you know, we can always try to do better. And we've been in contact with Mark, and Nick comes regularly, and so we're trying to do better. Obviously, there's still issues. What I can offer is that we did expand the Tech Tips sheet. It used to be a one-page sheet, and now it's 4 pages. And so it covers the same things, but there's more detail there to make it hopefully make it a little more intuitive that people could work through it. It does take time when you have those You can reload the guide, and it takes 5 to 10 minutes. You can reload the the QAM setup thing, and that takes another. And then worst case scenario, you unplug the receiver, you let it sit for 30 seconds, you plug it back in, then you have to go through all of the steps, and that's the 20-minute scenario. And then once that is done, and I live here, and I've done it a number of times, and sometimes I've had to do it more than once to go through that, twice to get it to work. And the TV in the living room is more problematic than the one in my second bedroom, and I can't figure out why, but that's just the way it is. But having said that, I've gone through it a number of times, and I've never had to call TotalCom yet for a service call. So I'm happy to work through that. If you want to sit here, not during the meeting, but if you want to go through it, if anybody's not comfortable with those steps, we'll start it up and we'll go through it right here.
Can we get another copy of all those 4 pages again?
Yeah, they're on the website, and we can absolutely print them out for you. And you can leave them in your unit. A lot of the renters are tech savvy, so they don't have any trouble, scanning and changing the input and unplugging and plugging back in. Absolutely, they do. But again, that's the system that we've got. So we're under contract, and the system is the system, and we are trying to improve it to the best that it can be and make it as easy as possible for everybody.
And it's a great deal. $85 a month for everything we get.
Yeah.
$9 a month.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Jim, my unit was one of the ones that had the extended power outage. And when I went to come back up, I went through the printed procedures from the website and didn't have any success. So I called in and I got the tech and told him what I did. And he said, "Oh no, those instructions are all wrong. I've been trying to get them to get the right instructions in there." And he proceeded in just a very short period. So I'm wondering,
we worked with them.
Do we have the right instructions?
Well,
we worked with
we
Mark.
put those together. Mark passed them by his techs. They supposedly, went through the steps and agreed that those were the steps.
Okay, well, there was
and
one
we will revise them if they
need
to be revised.
And whatever steps he used, in a few minutes, I got all the TVs working again. But I was wondering if we could get a better channel guide, or if Mark could put the channel guide in the cloud, and you could just go to the cloud and get it. Because on the one I have, we have 3 different levels of service, and I don't even know which one we are. And I noticed that tenants had written in pen different channels where the channel guide wasn't the channels anymore. So apparently they changed.
Yeah, I think maybe what's happening is, do you have any lists set up in your, because I have like list 1, list 2, but if you go to the all channels or all HD channels, you go to all channels, you should see everything. Now there's duplicates in that because HD and non-HD. But if you have a list set up, then it excludes some of that stuff.
You got a channel list that's not the list. It's got 3 things. There's nothing to indicate which of those 3 columns you should go to. The channels are different. And couldn't we have something real simple?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, maybe you have a copy of the dish. Somehow the dish list, is the 100 top 20 or top 120, whatever it is.
Don't we need that?
There's been a lot of time. Is it a dish? Does it say dish on the top?
TotalCom.
What I'm saying is it's colored and everything.
And we're about to chew the sugar out of the stick.
I think so.
I think so. This is a dead horse.
We will update the instructions on the website as we're made aware that they need to be updated. But we literally went through this exercise, Jim, less than 3 months ago?
Yeah.
I would say.
Absolutely.
On the television, on the remote, it's
Right.
not an interactive channel guide you can scroll through.
Right.
I don't recall us providing a...
We don't have a list on the website.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some of those old things where you had the top 120, and then maybe some of those are still around.
Yeah.
If you have anything that says dish on it,
toss it.
I know you can scroll, it just takes a long time. But at home, I've got a list, I can scan that list in a few seconds. It takes 10 minutes to run through, to scroll through this list.
I can send what is on the top. Y'all actually have the top 200 here. So I can send that list.
Current list?
I'll send it to Jen.
Okay.
She can put it up on the website, and if it changes, I'll just resend it. But
okay.
We don't know when it changes all the time either on our side. I mean, they move channels around every once in a while.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. We've got some other questions, and we're trying to be, respectful of time.
What's the next question?
So I'm gonna let you continue reading.
You want me to read them?
Yeah.
Just you want to go with this one next? You good?
That's fine.
We're trying to group them together so that we can get them all addressed. Even though the budget might look okay now, once all of the repairs and projects, painting, et cetera, are completed, what will the reserve fund balance be by the end of 2018? And what if the 5% increase does not, it says pan, I think it means, pass, I'm sorry, pass, does not pass.
The reserve fund projection is that at the end of this year, it would be about $632,000. Right now, at the end of 2017, it was $914,000. The end of 18 is projected to be $632,000, and that's a function of we're spending about $500,000 this year on the recoding project, repair recoding, and then we'll put another 218 or so back in. And so at the end of 2018, we are projecting at this point $632,000. At the end of 2019 is projected to be at $350,000. And that would probably be the low point, because by that time, by the end of 2019, we should be pretty close to finished with the exterior of the building, and then we'll start building that reserve fund back up at the rate of $218,000 a year, ideally.
And if the 5% increase does not pass?
Costs us $30,000.
Right.
Costs us another $30,000 next year. But if you don't pass it this year, next year, we would probably come back with the same kind of request, maybe a little more if we end up a year down the road. But that's the impact. It's a $30,000 hit if you don't.
In 2018.
In 2018. Yeah.
And we are operating on a 2016 budget right now.
Right.
So again, we'll have to. Remember, everyone wants more security, cleaner facilities, all of these things. But if we don't have the funds, then we'll have to work within the budget that we have.
We'll have to defer.
So things will get deferred.
And also, it's not just $30,000. It's $30,000 this year and $60,000 next year. So that's a total of $90,000. So that's how many projects are going to get cut and deferred.
And we just, we'll manage it.
We will, but
we'll manage it.
We would prefer
it will be an impact, on what can be done. In the budget discussion this morning, I believe Jim said the proposed budget was $95,000 short and would have required a 10% dues increase to be balanced. But the board is required to submit a balanced budget. Why was this done?
Would you approve the 10%? Last year we did take that approach, and we did propose I think it was a 10% increase, and it did not pass. And so we were faced with nothing. What the thought process this year, and the reason we did what we did, is that we would get it 5% is more digestible to most people than 10, and so we would get $30,000 this year. We'll get the other $30,000 next year. We will be balanced then next year. This year we could be balanced as long as we manage some of these projects that we have. So, we felt like our rationale satisfying our requirement to present a balanced budget was that this 5% increase will balance the budget
in 19
by January 1 of 2019, and so that was our rationale.
Okay.
And another way to look at it is you balance the budget by applying some of the reserve, and that's why you had a reserve. So you can take that Clinton-esque approach in the definition of the word balance.
Yeah, if we, there's creative accounting that can be done here, but we have chosen not to do that.
This is straightforward accounting.
Yeah, this is above board here.
Budget increase of 5% a year yields $60,000 in revenue. To build back a $900,000 shortage in reserves would require 15 years if there were not an increase in operating expenses. The statement was made that no increase in dues would be needed for several years with a 5% increase. How can this work mathematically, much less realistically?
I didn't write that question. I did ask you that question, but I didn't write that question.
Okay. I mean, I've addressed it a couple of times already, and I just feel like that with good oversight and proper management of expenses, known and unknown, that we do the best we can, and that we should be good for several years. Now, in several years, if we find out we're not, then the board at that time would probably come back and say, we need another increase. Now, the option, and I can't remember if I said this in the budget meeting or this meeting, there is an option to assess for insurance. You could, our condo docs are written to discourage and in some cases prevent special assessments. But there is a provision in the condo docs that you could assess for annual expenses, and then the annual expense that we have now is insurance. And so if it got bad, where we did see the shortfall and no way around it to say except we need to do a dues increase or we can do this insurance assessment, then that would be one way to approach it. It's not the way we would like to approach it. It's not the way that's been approached in the past, but that is, if we got into the situation and the membership decided no more increases and you would rather pay all or a portion of an insurance assessment, then that can be done as well.
We don't plan to do that, but if the budget, if that's what the budget allows, then that's the way we will go, right? If that's what's passed.
But it can be presented ahead of time. I mean,
right.
Membership can make that decision.
And remember, we're reviewing this every year, not just this year. So if we see that the trend is not going as expected, or the board sees that the trend is not going as expected, then it would have to be adjusted accordingly.
But if we had a major hurricane and the deductible is $380,000. If the reserve account doesn't have that much in it, then there would be a forced assessment. Of course.
Well, but that's there would be a go on, Jim. I'm sorry. There would be a forced assessment regardless.
The reserve account.
It's just covering the difference.
The reserve account is not to recover from a hurricane.
Right.
The purpose of the reserve account is to replace the roof, paint the building, do the air conditioning. There are several line items there, and that's all it's supposed to be used for. Now, we have talked about in preparing for a casualty that we're actually receiving proposals to take out a $500,000 line of credit. The purpose of that is that if we did have to come up with this $380,000 right away, we would have that at the ready. It costs a couple $1,000s to set it up. Basically a 1% loan origination fee is what you pay, I think. But it costs us to set it up. But if that would give us a jump start, if we had to come up with some money right away, we could, and that puts us kind of at the front of the line for any repairs that need to happen. While other people are out there trying to get their ducks in a row, we're already there, and we get the contractors and they show up.
Just forward thinking.
And to be clear, though, that's to cover the expenses while we assess, while everybody gets assessed. Because if there is a catastrophic event, the 1% coverage is going to be the owner's responsibility, your percentage of the ownership.
That's just to cover us in the meantime.
Right.
And go back to the reserve fund, that's strictly for capital expenditures is what that's designated for.
And there's ways to manage that you could,
Well,
instead of
basically-
having you to come up with $10,000 all at once, I mean,
Right.
there are
Well, it's
ways
not just for capital,
to
it's
lessen
just
that impact
for
and
different-
spread it over time.
It's gotta be
and that's
designated
what a loan,
reserve
a line of credit does. for you.
operations.
Mark?
Doesn't the document speak to that as far as a line of credit or?
Not specifically to a line of credit.
But it does speak to a fund.
Yes, it does speak to how to recover from a casualty. It is all laid out in
Right.
there as to how that works.
At one time, have a line of credit?
We did.
We did, and we are getting one again.
Yeah, we did have it, and the decision, I think it was 2015 or 2016, a decision was made to not take that out. And partly that decision was made on the level of the reserve fund, but I've always tried to make the point those two aren't really tied, but yet money is money. If you've got to have money, money is money.
But if the document's required, then why did we do it?
I don't think that the documents
No, the
require
documents
it.
didn't require a line of credit. It just specified how the casualty would be. Yeah.
Not necessarily a line of credit, but it does require to have some kind of.
It does lay out steps for how you recover from a casualty and what happens if there's a shortage or an overage and how all that's handled. Yeah, it is specified.
We have a plan.
There is
We
a
do.
plan.
There is a plan.
And the 500,000 line of credit is just a risk mitigating
Right.
approach.
It's like somebody said, we're ready if something happens.
Yes,
Right.
right.
We're not scrounging and having a special assessment for $5,000.
Right.
Trying to get that and drop it down.
Yeah.
We have our ducks in a row.
We're ready. We hope we don't have to implement
we're
that
ready.
plan, but we're ready.
The count is in. Do we
Do you want to know who won the election?
No.
No.
We're going to get through this.
So we're going to
Okay.
Then.
wrap these up. There are two different questions. I'm going to kind of combine them. There's questions about enforcement of the condo rules, pet policy, wreaths, etc. So, Jim, if you want to speak to what we've already done, and then we can talk about the next steps.
Right. So our approach to rules enforcement has been to educate and disseminate information and encourage compliance. We have avoided a fine structure, and we have tried not to get into more punitive types of enforcement. That has been successful to some degree. We have had certain items, certain rules that have come to be more problematic. And pet policy is one of those things. Smoking is one of those things.
Those are the two big ones.
Yeah, those are big ones. The wreath on the door, while it's laid out in the rules about, we should have wreaths and plantings, and it's all laid out there. But our approach has been to encourage compliance, and we've talked to those people and said, hey, but we have not gone to the point of taking people's wreaths off their doors or setting up a fine of any type for violating those rules. Some of the rules are more, like the pet policy in particular, is not just in the rules, it's in the declaration of the condo. And so we went through a thing with boats. The boats were the same thing, So there are some of the rules that are, and I guess I just say that the whole point of the rules is to set out a culture, a flavor of the condo. And what we count on owners to do is to be, to abide by those so that it's fair for everybody that lives here. Right. That everybody is respecting others and doing their part to abide by the rules. We have the situation where renters coming and they aren't familiar with the rules, and so they don't necessarily know. And when that happens, we confront those renters and explain the rules to them and ask them to comply. And again, most of the time, there is compliance. And so that's been our approach so far. If we get to a point where there is abuse or where there is infringement on others' rights that we consider, that we need to do something about, then the only way I know to deal with that is a fine structure. And I'd really like to avoid that.
So I am one of those pet owners that I am in violation because I was told before we bought our unit by Ann Lindsay and by Rose Rika at ACP, our realtor, that we were allowed to have 2 kittens. And I have 2 kittens in my unit, and I am not going to leave 1 kitten at home. I have asked for more than 2 years and was told it's not a big deal, no, it's never going to be enforced. Well, I do not want to be subjected to fines because I have asked either, and I understand it has to be changed through a vote of the entire membership to allow 2 animals, and I understand it became an issue because someone's dog bit someone. I have cats, okay? Cats and dogs are 2 totally different things. They don't poop in the areas, they don't leave my unit, they get carried in. I am asking the board, and I sent this to you in writing, and it couldn't get on the agenda because I actually asked a question in January when the rules came out, and nothing got done. Could I get an exemption? Could I get a letter stating my kittens are allowed? I've been a homeowner for 4 years. Could we just put it to the vote next year that 2 cats, that we understand the difference between cats and dogs, and that you could have 2 cats? I mean, I'm not a dog person. My cats are never going to bite anybody, but I don't want to be faced with a fine down the road because 4 years ago I chunked out a bunch of money to live here and was told one thing, and then 6 months later go, what do you mean 1 or 1?
Well, it's in the bylaws.
I understand.
And it's going to take, I understand, and I was told a lot when I bought mine too.
Right.
I was told the same thing.
It's a big damn deal to change it, but
It's 3/4, it takes 3/4 of all of us to change the condo docs.
And I understand, that's in the bylaws, but I want to put before this board in these minutes that I, as a homeowner of 2 cats, I would like this rule addressed and put before the unit owners next year so that we can vote on it.
So
before fines come in, because I'm not going to pay fines.
I don't know how to do that.
The board has agreed to bring up and discuss rules compliance again, at a board meeting, at monthly board meetings, and we will do that. When you get into changing the documents, John said 3/4, I think it's
66 and 2/3.
So it takes 2/3. And if you start into changing those, then where do you stop? Do we fix commas and periods and misspellings, and do we fix so that's what happened before. Is there was a number of changes that had been drafted and didn't even come to the floor because there was not 2/3 of the members. So we're going to address it. But that being said, it is not within the authority of the board
to give an exemption,
apply and not abide by the rules. The membership has to change it. The board cannot.
Right, and we can't give an exemption.
Right, I understand that. I'm just saying before we get into fines, because people are going to say, well, if you enforce this, I had a read, and da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
I'm putting it out there. I have 2 cats. I'm going to keep bringing my cats. You're never going to see them unless they stick their head over the rail.
So we can look to that for the next meeting.
Yes, a year from now, I would love to see us vote and say, you know what, 2 small, cute kittens are fine.
Well, if you do it has to do 2 pets.
Well, no, you could change it. I mean, at that point, you're changing the rule.
To anything.
So we can also.
We'll discuss it, and there are some options, but again, it comes right down to it's going to take a vote of the membership.
It is, right. And
consideration.
And I just want to remind everybody that these rules have been in place for a long time, and they were written by people that had other condo complexes, so they're likely there for a really good reason, and we need to be mindful of that as we consider rule changes. I was told the same thing, Barbie. I was. So, I thought I could have 2, but we can't. And that
smoking, parking, pets.
But we were told incorrect information, and we have to abide by the bylaws.
And what we have done to address that is that We have talked to realtors, and we have told them that there are rules, and they need to make it clear to any prospective owners that those are the rules. The prospective owners should read those rules and know up front that, no matter what somebody tells you,
the rules are the rules.
Where you got a question?
Yeah, we've got a microphone.
I have a comment on the same issue of pet ownership. Now, we purchased our unit in August of 2017. We came in, we talked to the people. The people we bought it from had 2 pets. The people who we were talking to from the unit and the management knew we had 2 dogs. We had them with us. No mention whatsoever. We explained we're going to buy this unit based on the fact that we can bring these 2 pets. That is the caveat for purchase. Then nothing happened except the call from Jim. And we answered every single question you asked. You never answered. Never. Now, that's almost unacceptable. Now, since the time I've been here, which is a short time, we're not long-termers. But I've been more offended by some of the renters than I have pets. So there's no policy whatsoever for renters.
There is.
There is. There is, absolutely.
Apparently it's not being vetted correctly.
Well, when we know, when we find out, then they are being talked to, and it is addressed.
Well, apparently information is inadequate. It's not being correctly given to potential new purchasers, and I think that's an internal problem we need to deal with.
The packets that are given have all the condo docs in them.
That is correct.
And it's pretty unreasonable to ask that we sit down with you and go through 105 pages of condo docs. That there is and again, we talked to the realtors about this, and if you talk with Jen ahead of time, and she'll say, here's the rules, and here are all the condo docs. But it is incumbent on any prospective owner to read those and know what you're getting into.
Now, I have a question. When we got our unit, I'm not sure we got those papers. We were in a situation where we came in, we paid these people cash money, and we took our unit. I don't know if we ever got those papers.
Well, that's
Did you purchase it directly, may I ask, from the individual?
Yes.
Then it was incumbent upon them to give them to you.
Right. But we can't manage all those expectations.
I would assume that it is, because they represented themselves.
So Jen has worked with, now that this has really come full circle, from when everybody knew to some people didn't know. And so Jen is, and I'll just let her say what she does for the units that are for sale.
When I get your closing docs the day before, you need me to send your statement of what the dues are. A lot of times I don't even know the new owner's name of the unit.
Right.
I immediately ask for the closing agent to provide the new owner with the introductory letter. And of that, that's rules and regulations. And Mr. Watts is one of those things because he was sold a unit by a management company here and misled. And I feel bad that he's caught in that position. So, but it's happened more than once. And then we have a service dog issue, guys, and we cannot, step over a line. At times our hands are tied, So we have 2 long-term service dogs with guests in the condo right now.
But a service dog is one animal.
Yes.
Yep.
And we do have that issue, and that is an ADA requirement that we have to follow. We can't ask certain questions about service dogs, but again, that's one animal. Even if it's over 65 pounds, it's still one animal.
Yep.
So my other comment was, if you're going to send the information and I'm going to reply to you, and I ask you for a reply and I don't get it, that's inappropriate.
Okay.
I don't. Okay.
I'll make a note. Sorry we didn't reply to you.
Okay, we've got 2 more. There's a comment that possibly we could do a neighborhood watch. They're asking if that might work with the HOA. I'm not sure about that from a liability perspective, so I would actually like to take that to the attorney before we entertain that any further in this type of environment. So I'm going to set that one to the side, and we'll take that to the board as a consideration. There's a question about, and Jen, I'll have to defer to you on this, and I don't know that we have these stats available right now. How many times was the owner's lounge rented this last year?
Owner's lounge, crappy. Once, guys, once.
And I if it was once, then I do know that event insurance was purchased. Yes. So we've got that. And was the event used for private parties but not officially rented? And I'm not sure what the terminology of that would be.
Remember, we sent you, when the rules to the owner's lounge changed, we told you is you could come here. Say you have a 2-bedroom unit and you have 10 people. You can come here and have pizza as long as the door is open.
And others can come in.
And you're going to share your pizza with the staff. You're more than welcome.
That wraps this up.
Yep, that's it? Okay.
Okay, so.
One more question.
Okay, we're still on questions then, okay.
This week, I noticed the new signage, beautiful, love, that I don't care, the pool's extended till midnight, whatever, great. Earlier this week, the outdoor pool signs in big bold letters said no alcohol. Yesterday, it did not say no alcohol. Next week, is it going to say no alcohol? Because I would like to know when my husband's family comes over July 4th, whether we can drink a beer at the pool, or is this going to be willy-nilly, like, can we just say we're all adults, we can have a beer?
We would love to say that, yes. What happened was in the whole process of insurance renewal this time, our general liability underwriter from last year dropped us due to claims history, and so they were looking for a new general liability underwriter. They did finally find one. They had trouble. They did finally find one, but that underwriter required a liquor exclusion, it was called, and which meant that they would not pay claims for any liquor-related incidents. We continued to work with them. Our insurance agent continued to work with them, but in the meantime, between April 4th and yesterday, we were instructed to and suggested that we went ahead and put up no alcohol on the pool signs.
In the interim. While we were
until we got it
negotiating.
resolved.
So now we have negotiated.
And so as of day before yesterday,
and it's back.
They removed that exclusion, and so we went and took the no alcohol off, and you are allowed to drink responsibly at the pool.
Always.
Does that include
Yes. Well, it does for HOA.
For HOA events.
But for reservations, for private parties, those still are going to have a separate individual liability policy.
And the policy was retroactive from the
We
date.
have it in writing and no additional cost.
Okay, good negotiation.
Question here, Jen?
Oh, Ms. Louise.
Are there any units for sale, or are we completely full?
We are completely full, but there are units for sale, resales. There are resales.
Resales, how many?
10 or 11 usually. I mean, it's been running very constant for the last year. We've kept track of that, and in general, there have been 10 or 11 for sale at any one time, and 3 or so are selling each quarter.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay? Want to hear who won the vote? So let me just say this. Let me say this before we go. More question. Another question.
Who handles the fire calls here? The Dauphin Island Fire Department?
The volunteer fire department for Dauphin Island, yes.
Okay, in case anybody didn't know, they're trying to replace some of their hoses, and they're trying to buy new hoses to extend their coverage. They'll take donations because it's not in their budget, as I understand it.
Okay.
So
I've got sign up and they're,
They can sponsor, you can sponsor a 50-foot hose for $210 and they'll censor your name on it.
Oh, nice. That's what we want. Your name on a fire hose.
Thank you.
Thank you.
there's
That's
also,
good
there's
information.
also been a fundraiser that's going on for it. Yes.
Okay.
I have the information across the street if anybody needs it for it.
Okay.
So this was a great discussion. You know, we encourage the open communication between the members of the board. You know, if it gets direct at times, that's okay. We're all open and we really want to address what we have to address and are willing to do that. So the next section here was accomplishments and plans, but all of this is in your report. So I'm going to give you the option of sitting through it or not. That's what I thought you would say.
We did a lot.
And that's fine. And again,
Look at it.
so after you go through, if you want, you know, any send us an email, send Jen an email. You want any feedback on those things, questions on future plans, and that would be happy to address those. We meet in this room monthly now, at second Thursday or third?
Third
Thursday, 4:30 to 6:30. Anybody's welcome to come and attend those meetings and participate. I mean, if you have anything to address the board, you know, feel free to come.
I would encourage everybody to sit in on at least one meeting. You learn a lot and you see all of the things that have to be discussed, and it really helps with perspective of, you know, kind of trying to accommodate all requests and make sure that the building is maintained. So I would really just encourage everybody to try to attend if they're able. Sometimes they don't last 2 hours.
You can also read the minutes of the
Absolutely.
meetings online.
We do post those minutes online. They're in the monthly meeting minutes section. Dave has done a wonderful job on the website, and we have this year put up a lot of additional information so that, you know, if there's something you're looking for, odds are good you can find it on that website if you look, and if you can't, send us an email.
You should know what's going on. I have access to what we're doing. And
we're trying, and if we realize you don't, if we realize there's a gap there, we add stuff. Exactly, absolutely. Are we adjourning before?
Okay, we're going to.
The two board members got elected.
Yay!
And the budget passed.
Yay!
All right.
It wasn't even close. 72 to 10 on the budget. So good.
Excellent.
Great.
Everybody wants to take care of the building. That's great.
Thank you. Just as
Yeah. There's a couple of. If you own a LLC, you have to appoint someone to be the person that's going to vote for that unit. So it doesn't have to be the same person every year. You just need to let the board or the management know who has the authority to vote for that unit.
Okay.
And that's an LLC requirement. So you have to let them know who's going to vote, and then once they have that information, then that vote will count. So there were 7 of those this year. It wouldn't have affected the outcome anyway, but going forward, it's always good to do that.
Well, and also too, some of you, a lot of us own a joint with husband or a spouse or wife, and we had several that did that. That's not really required because your name is on the official list. It was the LLCs or the multiple joint owners who were not married to each other that was the problem. So just keep that in mind. It didn't matter this year, but certainly it might have mattered last year and may matter next year.
Yes, sir.
All of this could be on one sheet of paper. There's 3 sheets, confusing. I acted proxy for a few people, and it's endless how many questions they have and how many times they fill it out wrong. It's this 3-sheet thing where you're assigning and then you're a proxy. It's confusing. It needs to be redone.
Good point.
Well,
Simple's always better.
That's a perennial problem. We have that with the POA too. We tried this year to come up with a more simple ballot. We still, proxies are just, that happens probably in every HOA and POA. It is confusing. And we're going to look at it again to try to avoid it in the future.
Better just get everybody to come to the meeting, and then you don't have to worry about it.
There we go.
Yes, sir.
I just got one thing I want to say. I just want to say
appreciation for this board. They've done a lot of hard work this year, a lot of unthankful work this year. My opinion, they inherited a mess. They cleaned it up. They have worked hard, and just for the basic fact, all the little, just only the little issues that have been brought forth today, that says a lot. They've done their job, and the membership's happy.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, they just, y'all just passed a 5% increase in the budget, so they'll get a 5% pay increase.
There we go. 5% to 0. Still nothing. All right.
Okay. Is there any other business to come before the board? Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Lots of them. Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you for coming.